All right. So we'll try to wrap this up, this whole burst of excitement and inspired enthusiasm about tarot, the good, the bad, the ugly, the ranting. It seemed like in part two, we had to really kind of build a foundation in part one. Like, it's great to not mess with the symbols and really start to understand that they're coming from the collective experience of humanity and the earth, since like the dawn of time. Who knows? Like, we got to be a little flexible here to communicate it. We'll always be at a loss for words. There's always a new horizon. So, but we'll just call it the collective level of consciousness. And then we have our tribal, our personal, and then we have the time period that we're in. And so, kind of going to the first installment of this rant, part one, I talked a little bit about the new eon. And as I was grabbing this card, I really thought about Miss Harris and holograms. And she was probably having, I've had visions in my aura where it literally pops up as a hologram. And when I was a kid, I remember coming home in the 70s and the phone was still connected to the wall on like a spiral cord, like a slinky type cord that cords they used to look like this on the phone and then they would like stretch. Who has one of these in their room? I do. Um, and I remember looking at my mom and telling her, I go, Mom, I'm having like a holographic vision in my mind's eye. Sometimes I have them outward in front of me in my own aura, or when I'm looking at someone else. So I've had holographic, like almost like computer generated visions. And I was having one as a kid. When they're super detailed, it's just like like kind of pops up like a photographic memory. When it's not like a photograph, sometimes it's more like a energy hologram. So this card reminds me of that, and it's called a new eon or the eon. In my mind, I always thought it was called the new eon, but it makes sense. It's like a new age, a new epic. Um, and we see that there's Horus the Greater, or Horus united as an adult Ra figure, the embodiment of Ra as like the hero. But then we also see like this divine child. It could be the pharaoh, and so we're seeing layers and if you really start to study her cards, they're layered. And so looking back at some of my own personal visions, whether they were like projected out of my third eye as an outer hologram or projected inward as an inner hologram, I can now really relate, going, oh, she was having a holographic image. It was very deep and dimensional, but she didn't have the tools. Like, way back when they started making like bookmarks and a few other things that were kind of supposed to be like hologram and holographic. They were experimenting where you turn the image one way and you would see like, an old tree, and then as you slowly turn it, it's a living tree with fruit on it. Or it'd be like a grumpy face and then a happy face, or one color then the other color. So we've experimented with trying to make holographic paper, holographic images, photos, and things like that. And but obviously we haven't done it. So I'm imagining her at the end or during World War II having holographic visions and trying to use the resources that she had available to convey that in the best way possible. And so we see this very light figure, which is probably projected forward. And then we see this very intense picture in the background. So we're seeing depth here. She's having visions with depth in them. And so that's really quite amazing. Fitting that she's envisioning holographic technology way back when. So let's see if there's any other cards that jump out at me. I'm going to leave that one. The devil card is really interesting because doesn't that look like chromosomes? What is she doing with the knowledge of chromosomes? And we see these figures dancing around or floating around life, DNA, genealogy, generations is coming through here. Could be genetic stuff. And the symbol of the devil could be with the mercurial wand and this staff or penis going up into the higher plane. To me, she's sending there's a the devil is a question. This is a really a huge question mark. So, a lot of people say the devil card might be fear, or it might be you're doing something wrong. Like like I've heard multiple times in relationship readings that the person who has the devil card is involved in perverted sex acts and drug addiction. And we hear these like negative things. But when I'm really looking at this card today as it's relevant in our conversation, I see a huge question mark. And once again, I see science and technology playing God. And then we really look, and the goat has a smile on his face, like a smirk, like a very mischievous look. And so, and it's like the spiral, which is like the form of creation, the form of life, the spiral of life, the Fibonacci sequence, Fibonacci and the golden ratio. We're seeing that here, and the devil has like two of them going in two different directions. Is man going one way and God going the other? Um, you know, has man pierced heaven and is accessing the higher planes instead of piercing down into earth and down into horizontally? We're going vertically. Are we going the wrong direction? Are we becoming? So the question is science becoming God? Is technology? And so I see that, and and so when we really look, I mean, she was like kind of, I would say, not really rich, but kind of in the writings there is kind of like a hint at her being wealthy, and a hint of kind of like where, I'm sure she's like, small town, everyone, like she's kind of like in a little elitist club. Why would I don't imagine her having access to hard science, looking into microscopes, reading papers and journals on chromosomes. Like, you just don't have access to that when you're hosting parties, wine and cheese, hanging around with friends and talking about a cult. And here we see, so she's basically slapping us in the face with science, with science, with science. The Hermetic arts have never been separated from science, but they've also never been separated from mysticism. The only thing that's really separated it is this idea of religion that holds everyone, because people can't seem to get away from it. And it got really bad when people started uh, doing rituals. Like, it was written. I think one of the authors in the Golden Dawn and a few of the other ones wrote about rituals being like a Catholic mass, and how that's a really good uh, format to follow for ceremonial ritual magic. I think then it just really went downhill, just kind of abort mission. Ceremony and ritual magic works because it helps you focus your mind, but you could just learn to focus your mind. You know, there's an organic type, and we always seem to fail to realize that science is not separate. When you're handling life, when you're working with creation, when you're bringing something from the imagination into our reality, Your imagination is another dimension. When you feel called, so Steve Jobs is a good person to look at for the iPhone and bringing that in. There's just all sorts of inventors and stuff. It doesn't matter where you get your information or steal your information. When you manifest it, when you're taking it from one dimension into another, you're a magician. You're doing a cult. So a lot of people are doing that with physical things, but you can just do them with mental things. Um, I pulled these three cards. They're very relevant to me and my experience. So I have a mirror in my room, and one day I'm looking at it, and it's like a round. It's covered right now, but we'll show it. There's my mirror, and the part that's covered is round, and it kind of like bubbles out. And I was kind of listening to some good music, and I was cleaning my room, and all of a sudden I saw the whole thing just cloudy. And have you ever seen it kind of looked like an apparition, like water, like moisture on a hot road, and you see the waves, and it kind of makes distortions? Or maybe have you ever just seen some gasoline on the ground and you see those distortions? Uh, the moisture, you can see the shadows. It was doing that. And it was in a brown color, and then it lightened up and turned gold and then became clear. And when I was looking and seeing that, what I was witnessing was my own third eye clearing out. And I didn't, I was like almost emotional. I was awestruck once again. So visions have a tendency to pack a punch and speak to you on many levels at once, reveal directly to you what's going on. So you're being mystified, lost in wonder, but you're also getting a direct understanding of what's going on. So while it was happening, this clearing of my third eye through focusing in the mirror, I got to witness and see my own third eye clearing. And now I know what it looks like I to have a third eye, your third eye clear out. I saw it with my own eyes. And so this card really, so here we are with the Three of Swords and that murky, I would call it abysmal water, dark water or dark cloudy substances. And so this really represents like when the third eye was clogged. This was before the clearing, but then there's that movement. And it's a three. And literally, when it was open, like when my third eye opens, or when I was going through my third eye reawakening, on, I would say, there's many levels to the third eye. I've always been having visions and dreams. I could see at different types of ways, clairvoyantly, but the working with the crystal ball, and it's not really the tool, it's just one pointed focus will clear out your third eye. For me, it is gold. It's gold right in the center. And so it's fitting that she puts a yellow rose being pierced. This occult science, the knowledge, the information, peeling back the layers or deflowering. And so that could be the death. So once again, it's kind of like the frog being dissected, but this time it could be the veil of ignorance of being in the material world and then having that broke open and understanding the reason why not all of us are seeing with their third eye. And I've known this for years through different experiences. Is that our auras just get dirty. We get energetically clogged fighting with each other. We get energetically clogged consuming the wrong food, food, poisonous media, like being engaged in things that are toxic for us energetically, clog up and bind our chakras. So when you take a break from all that crap, do a little smudge, a little sea salt bath, time away from people. When you're out in nature, nature clears your aura. Those were other times when my third eye opened. Trees will help you clear your aura and open up your third eye. So I've had enough experience with watching my own aura get cleared out, the cloudiness. That always reminds me. So instead of Three of Swords being emotional heartache and you're wounded, and it could be a sign to purge. Time to get clear. Time to come back to God, the Holy Trinity. You know? Seven of Cups, same reminder. There's this melting down, this rotted out. And so, Prince of Swords. So there must be a pattern and a theme, but then there's also a direct knowing with those colors, with those type of shapes and images, from darkness into the light, coming out of the abyss. Um, this card is really important to me. The Tower. I used to have a lot of visions about World War III when I was in high school, like the end of the world stuff and different scenarios, different timelines. I used to see meteors falling from the sky. I used to see forest fires and mountains on fire and lava overflowing and earthquakes. Really intense, high visual. Planes falling out of the sky right in front and landing in my front yard, broken. And so this card reminds me, it brings me back to those high, intense visions I would have. I lived on a farm. Why was I dreaming of earthquakes, volcanoes, meteors, and falling airplanes? And so that's a direct portal right into the certain type of dreams I was having. We label them as dreams, but we don't really know. Is the mind hallucinating? Are we in another dimension? Was it a parallel reality of possibilities? Were, were there forces creating World War III and then it got postponed? So this morning's vision was very much, I was coming back to my body and it was beautiful like that. And I had no idea why I was seeing it. And all day at work, I was thinking about that. The lingering memory of kind of moving in from that dimension, coming back to this, like moving out of that dimension into this one, back into my body. And I was thinking about it, totally forgot about it. And as I was selecting cards, there it was. I had no idea that I was going to decide to make a video on this stuff. And here we are, she's in between two different worlds. And I'm talking about this higher dimensional world and our earthly world and bringing in the divine knowledge up from the level of being the guardian of the mount, sitting on the crossroads of the higher dimension, luminous Saturnian light, and the darker below dimension, Earth, the shadow of Saturn. So here's another great one. Once again, posed with the question, Universe A and Universe B. Scientists have always theorized that there's a parallel reality, a Universe A and a Universe B. Occultists have always been working with Universe A and Universe B. Dark matter, light matter. In Star Wars, there's a Universe A and a Universe B. They're in the dark one, but there's a flip one of the light. So the void of darkness and the void of light. And the cosmic serpent that moves in between, the torus shape with the new physics that we're working with. Here she is saying, I told you so. And in a weird way, as above, so below, as within, so without. But then when you really start understanding physics, science, astronomy, chemistry, we can't get away from it. We're always, so here it is, the alchemy and the science and the mysteries. And I really think she's exposing the truth about the balance of two universes eating each other, creating each other, destroying each other. Like one moves into the other. Through a black hole, spits out the other side. You know, like that's just really kind of straightforward. It's not let's balance your finances. It's not you're living a double life. Like, yes, you are, but maybe more than you realize. Maybe there's two of you. So I feel like the tarot poses bigger questions and also reveals where we are scientifically. And those are the big questions that are answered. So it's it's asking us bigger questions, but then it's giving us smaller answers that science is already working with. And the most important, the world card with the four beasts and the four elements. And when you really study Crowley's deck, the four aces or the four elements, they're at the highest level. They're at the highest level. And they move down and pierce every dimension and every plane and land here in the earth dimension and beyond. And so by accessing the four elements, they're gateways. They're four other hidden paths on the tree of life. So we have the 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. There's 26 paths for you. The guardian angels, they're there with you in all dimensions. And so these are major players. They're way more powerful and have much more like the burning bush. There you are, Ace of Wands. Talk directly to Moses and the 10 commandments come out of there. So a 1 and a 0, it's a 10. So and like talk about major archetypal pattern, you know, a gold disc and she puts wings around it and all sorts of stuff. It's like I haven't really even fully revealed this one. Ace of Swords and it's crowned and it's in the heavenly realm pointing up. Like there's just so much I can't even say it all. This one talks to me a lot. This one is always there in every realm. I'm drinking from this cup in the underworld. I'm drinking the cup of death all the time to gain the eternal wisdom of life. It's crazy. This card has always been very powerful for me. So I've had experience with this one a few times, but I'm sure it's revealing itself more and more lately if I dwell on it. Like the blue and the sky color has always been, for me, positive male energy that I'm reconnecting with. The dark blues, dark goddess energy, underworld. So there's a polarity with the blues for sure. But blues definitely hit God realm archetype levels for me. Of So it's just very, very interesting. These colors are very powerful. My fire angel, my personal angel, is always in these colors. So it's just I feel like the earth one is the one I'm always having to gather and learn to put roots in. My big struggle is to come out of these three realms and materialize, manifest, and accept the reality of this journey here. So, and that happens with a lot of mystics and a lot of, I would call them escape artists. They want to escape to the world of visions and angels, or they want the knowledge that science brings and the order. And it's like, even so, you got to be able to, whatever you're talking about, there is a card that goes with it. You know, if I'm talking to my friends about Chaos is always seeking order. Like, that was a thought I was having yesterday. I was like, you know what? Chaos rests and materializes when there's order. And we're like kind of taught backwards. We're like, chaos is always going to be chaotic, it needs to be put under control. It's like, no, actually, chaos rests when there's clear boundaries. That part of us that's disorganized, we so we get out of sync. So in Joe Dispenza's work of heart brain coherence and someone else's work on synchronization, whatever you want to call it, you basically can say there is a part, just like the universe, whatever's happening in the universe is happening in your mind, is happening in your body. Levels, um, fractals. So the disorganized part, that breaking down principle, um, is just asking for you to place boundaries, order, clarify it, organize it, put it to use, and then it becomes life giving function. So, literally, so what relates to me is out of the emptiness, out of the void, manifest. So it's like the rabbit being pulled out of the magician's hat. Life is born kind of out of the darkness and the chaos, but it's the stillness out of the container. So it's almost like you have to build a container for the chaos. And the chaos then becomes a usable energy. And through that usable energy, we get something beautiful. We get light, we get a form, we get manifestation. So chaos is put into balance when you give it a container. And then through that, then it transforms automatically and becomes life. It becomes a useful force, a positive force, a constructive force. So the yin becomes yang, but it needs the circle to contain it. And that alchemy transformation is the S shape. And so this speaks all of it right here. The ordering of chaos, the rest. And then we see the dark goddess as the light goddess. And she can never be destroyed. She's just changing shapes and forms, you know? And so you should be able to write poems. You should be able to write songs. And all of your deepest ideas, your most creative, all of your most profound thoughts should be reflected in the cards. So you may not have the visions and the dreams. You may not have the mystic, but you should be able to like use the images as a template, and events in your life match up. The events of your journey match up. The creative thoughts, the scientific thoughts, the mathematical thoughts, uh, the ahas, the epiphanies, the realizations. You should be able to speak that with your cards. And it had, in a weird way, nothing to do with fortune telling, but you're now speaking multidimensionally, not just with flat words of the English language that we're constructing an alphabet. It's very limited, you know? It's like speaking in metaphors, it's speaking the archetypal language. And at that level, I call it morphic language because literally I had a vision, I had an experience that was outside the 3D reality. It kind of gets pressed into an image. And from that level, I can press it down again and press it into a language and speak it to you. And then it can then turn into an image and then turn into an experience, and we can share. So it becomes beyond 3D, it becomes holographic. And this is what the hieroglyphs were to the Egyptians. So this could actually maybe be the hieroglyph study guide. So I read this really great book on Egypt written by a psychologist, and she was saying in it that she believes or maybe had some evidence, I wouldn't doubt it, um, that the people who were in charge of creating the hieroglyphs were priests, had their own craft, and they saw holographically, forward and backwards in time. And so there might be an image of an ibis, but it represented things on different levels. And that's what I'm saying with the cards. They're like holograms, and they store the information of your personal journey, of your tribe, of your culture, of your generation, of humanity, and they could even expand farther into the creation of the universe. And when you start working with your cards at this level, you've gone way, way beyond fortune telling and spiritualism and new age. And you're basically speaking the language of the gods. You're speaking at the quantum, you're communicating at a quantum level, and it makes sense. It's, do we have a cigarette now? Is that what we do? So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I feel that moment of silence coming. I need not reveal more. It has all been revealed. Because, dang, language of the gods. Mm. Mm. I feel so dialed in right now. Yeah. So that's like the illumination. When the mind is lit on fire, when the mind is illuminated, you're excited, you get things, your brain is stimulated. Yeah, I just saw that just flush through. So let your mind. So this is what education is about. You want an education, you want to be so inspired, you want to be so open that every neuron in your brain catches fire. And that light illuminates, and you can see so much farther the possibility. You can take your tarot system so much farther now that you know it's a language. And you can use it, like, I had my dreams, and I then was able to catalog them in the deck of relatability.